This year, I don't think it's as wide a variety as previous years in terms of tone. It's pretty dark. It's pretty dark, but there's a few laughs throughout. But yeah, it's very much stemming from my fascination with crime. I think a lot of the programming. My building blocks of interest is true crime and coming of age movies. So it's just that this year that there was like a whole lot that all have this sort of narrative that can be woven amongst each other. So it was just really, it's kind of nice that there's like a thematic through line through a lot of these films. Like, yeah, it's crazy how many actually feature similar sort of themes. So it'll be weird if people do back-to-back experiences of certain titles. I hope they do, because I think in some way that was the idea, subconsciously. But you never, there's no like structured idea of a selection before the progress starts, because this goes back over a year prior. Dark Knight I've been trying to get that for last year as well. So yeah, unless I was, had an 18-month plan, it's really just luck a lot of the time. So it's loosely based on the Aurora shootings, right, during the film The Dark Knight, where the gunman came in and went loose with an automatic weapon, and one of the craziest mass shootings of recent years. This was really disturbing because the theatre is usually is kind of like a safe haven. I always refer to it as the church or whatever, so it's like a sanctuary. So when you have real life violence exploding amongst fictional violence, it was just too many meta freaking narratives going on, and giving extreme weight to those people who always said, look out, man, natural born killers, it's going to inspire this. It's, you've got the John Grisham's like pounding the door saying 1 + 1 = 2, and you guys have got to front up, and you can't be, you've got to be responsible for the material. So then you have a filmmaker like Tim Sutton who comes along with Dark Knight and wants to make a sort of commentary on all of this, but do it in a way where he strips it right back, and it's really a portrait of gun culture, but told in a way that's really subtle and haunting and evocative, and it's a freaking art film, man. It's a beautiful piece of work, and I just came away really knocked out by it. I wasn't with people when I saw it. I was by myself, and it was just, I don't know, man. I love sad, haunting, lonely cinema, and it's beautifully made. It's one of those ones, it just sticks with you, and it's not exploitative. You don't feel like he's taking cheap shots. I think it's really nuanced, just smart filmmaking on being able to be topical, political, and just smart about the whole thing, because you can be so heavy-handed with this stuff, and go off the rails. So yeah, just an extraordinary piece of filmmaking. Based on a real couple, Perth couple in late 80s. One of those horrible occurrences where you have possibly people that if they didn't meet up, they wouldn't have been as horribly grotesque human beings as if they were separated. I'm not too sure on that, and because we don't know how it would have played out. But sometimes when you have you have one sort of alpha character that ignites something in the secondary person, and together it just becomes this horrible fucking mix. This is pretty close to what happened, how it all played out, where someone finds buttons to push, who's captured, and tries to work out a way how to get out of a pretty much impossible scenario. It's like no one else did. They all ended up in the dirt. So this is a sort of survivor story. But it's not let's take the grandparents along to a pleasant, nice slice of entertainment. This is brutal. The trailer is strong enough for most people who see that trailer. It's like, oh God, another woman in peril movie. Do I really need to see more abuse on screen? It's a hard argument to make for why you should go see a film like this. I just think if you are into tough, provocative cinema, you're not going to see a better example of something that pulls you in with the performances. It's just like the right chemistry amongst the three leads that really takes it up a level.
At first it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive.
Dahmer's pretty fascinating for a lot of people. I mean, Well, of a certain age anyway, because I remember when a lot of it was going down with the trial and jail. I was, young enough to remember it all vividly, and it's those types of guys like Bundy and him who are kind of like, pretty handsome men that, fit into certain social situations, and Bundy a lot more than most. That there's a way for us to somewhat connect to certain parts of them. And Dahmer, well, I've seen, there's been a lot of versions of the Dahmer story told, whether it's documentary, there's even one that's kind of like a docudrama version, then there's a real exploitation version, that is amazing too. You've got to check that out. It's one stage. And then there's the amazing art house film Dahmer, which basically launched Jeremy Renner's career. So it has been mine before, but it's never been done like this, which is based on someone else's perspective of Dahmer at the time of him as a teenager. And it's just a really sort of like a glimpse into that world that we're never privy to when we're told about these sort of serial killer stories that we've seen before. It's always like through the perspective of the victims, or the cops, or the aftermath, and we go back. It's never been like a slice of, let's do the John Hughes portion of Dahmer's life, like the coming of age high school movie, based on a memoir, and a New York best-selling memoir, but told as a graphic novel. So he's a really unusual cat, and I think people are going to be really surprised by this. It's not heavy. It's not. It's not what people think. That's for sure. Especially anyone who's got kids and has to watched Nickelodeon is going to freak the hell out when they see this cute Disney star guy, Ross Lynch, in the lead, because I can't even remember what he is in, but he's always like singing songs and dancing around whenever I've seen him with the kids. And then and now he's Jeffrey Dahmer. It's kind of perfect.
So do you have any, I don't know, like tips for a girl who's trying to tighten?
This probably makes up for the grimness of a couple of the other entries, where it is still something that horror fans will get a kick out of, but also people just like good comedies. So this is kind of this is really the Instagram sort of version of a meta take on horror splatter, and using great practical effects, which horror fans love, but really focusing on women. They're, instead of usually a dude's perspective, they're really fun, sharp, nasty, clever, and want their 15 minutes no matter who gets in their way. I don't think I really got into actually the meat of what kind of makes it, but there's a big hook, and I don't really want to give it away. It's so rare for people to go in blind to these films these days. So I guess if anyone sees the trailer, they probably get a lot more than what I wrote about it in the guide. But I would think if you really want to have some fun with a film where keeps moving and shifting,
sorry about that.
Yeah, go in
Can't be too
with as
careful,
little
especially
info
with
as
that job on
possible.
the loose.
No worries.
Yeah, men are very much the weaker character in this scenario, and they
So you want me to spot you?
yeah.
Why is this bridge even closed? Yeah, what the fuck?
They want this film, and I think it could make it a River's Edge for this generation, but I don't know if films really have the impact that they seemed like they used to, where they were discovered and how they needed that sort of space to develop a following. So yeah, it probably, if it was released back in the day, it would have been the River's Edge of its time. It's one of these ones that's definitely unknown for most people here. It's got no sort of awareness factor. Just one of those times where a director's got a really good eye for the right actor for the right role, and it all works really well. That whole sort of aching adolescence scenario, but kind of fused with a horror vibe as well. So we have very much a traditional coming of age with all those sort of feelings of angst, then crossed with really dark turn of events. Just I don't know, it just kept me, I felt really young when I was watching it. It was just totally pulled me back to the kind of experience that I had as a teenager watching this sort of material for the first time. And that's only through the power of somebody who knows what they're doing.
A dream is a story I tell myself, right?
It is like the Tommy Wiseau, The Room of horror films, and I don't, you know, in terms of it being a slight vanity project, the otherworldly aspect of it, of being inside someone's brain, that just doesn't seem kind of coherent. Very much like a lot of first-time horror filmmakers, he had a vision that he wanted to execute. It's just that meth is a crazy fucking drug, and if you trying to make a film, it's likely that things aren't really going to go according to plan, and it feels dangerous. This film is like a primal scream of an artist where there's no sort of borders put in place.
We have to stop the nightmares. We have to fix our brain.
There's stuff that you'll see in this film that's like, wow, that's just weirdly disturbing. Like, I don't think I've seen anything like that before. Kind of like, and I'm not just throwing it out, but in terms of like, you know, when you see imagery in like a Jodorowsky film or whatever, it's like that's someone who's seen something on a trip. They're encapsulating it perfectly again on celluloid, like it's matching. So, but his is all nightmarish and just distorted and weird.
When you're sleeping at night, I'm the one who whispers in your ear.
I've never seen anything like it. It really flipped me out. I totally dug it. I think it's gonna be one hell of a screening. From the outside looking in, it looks like, oh, someone's doing a Radley Metzger, Russ Meyer kind of pastiche. But she is really, truly her own beast with a strong feminist perspective and being able to talk about sexual politics within the framework of those kind of exploitation films from the 60s and 70s, but with a real auteur vibe. And I hate that term, it's overused, hasn't been used correctly since the 70s when Sarah's coined it or whatever, but she is someone who completely creates her own world.
Goddess, please send me a beautiful, sweet man to love me as I love him.
This is like, has its own thriving heart to it all, and that's just through, she's the real deal, and that's why. You can't fake it. It has to come from a place of authenticity. And I feel like I'm drawn to that sort of stuff. And I think if you're kind of inexperienced or naive to it, or don't have the context of it, it could easily look like just a quick homage, but it's not. In the past, we've championed, or especially those dry humps in those academic quarters have championed the wrong examples, just because they come from the right place and tick all the boxes, but the actual end product is kind of lifeless and doesn't subvert the expectation, because it's not pulling in the audiences that it wants to. You know, it's just preaching to the converted. Whereas The Love Witch is quite accessible to a wide variety, and who cares if some of them don't get the message? They're still going to be entertained by the film, whether the subtext is going to, come alive to them or not. I mean, who goes in there with their folder and taking notes on the stuff anyway? Save that for the academics.
Witchcraft is just a way of concentrating energy. It can only work with what's already there. I just use sex magic to create love magic.
Jeez, so much of the audiences know his work now, I think, that he's not really a hard sell anymore, and I think we have had more success with his films along the lines of 13 Assassins than some of the more obtuse ones. So this is hopefully going to be a home run for people. They know what to expect. There's there's more supernatural sort of element mixed in this one, based on a huge manga, which I obviously haven't read. 13 was very much traditional, whereas I've got more fantastic elements mixed in with it. And it's kind of fun. I mean, it's a story that, we've seen bits of it before in previous scenarios, but it's super entertaining. And it's got again, when he is like really serious in terms of like building set piece action, I don't know if there's many out there that can top him for what he works with. Like, he's not playing with these marbled style budgets, but he has a great sense of being able to keep things in scale in terms of action, and it's not as violent as it is. Like, yeah, it is. It's just not as grotesque. It's hard to know what people think of violence these days when we've got The Walking Dead setting like such high bars for television, like what the expectations are. It's way more fun than anything horrific, that's for sure.
Yes, folks, this isn't any cheap X-rated movie or any fifth-rate porno play. This is the show you want.
I love how Bill Gosden, whenever he's always asked to make a comment on my section each year from someone, I don't know who, but he instantly goes straight to Waters because he loves this film, and I think that's a great thing to know, that deep within the overall pulsing heart of this festival lies a John Waters fan, and everything else stems out from that. So this is, an anniversary for the film. It's a gorgeous restoration, even though it's like ugly as sin and funny as hell. It's just really interesting to see it in a new sort of format, blown up for a whole new generation of depraved weirdos. And this is such a brother-sister act of Pink Flamingos. I mean, it's just kind of like watching the birth of, and Pink Flamingos is my favourite film of all time. So seeing something where this is like the genesis of where Waters peaked for me is really exciting.
This isn't even better than any night train. Oh.
If anyone wants to know what it is, they just have to solve the clues, but it's there. It's in the guide. In terms of like wanting to do a secret screening, I've been pushing for one for a long, long time now. I just love them. I know at festivals I've gone to, it's really the fun drinking topic every night at bars. Like, what's the secret screening going to be? There's just there's always excitement attached. Sometimes people are deflated by what eventually ends up being the film, and it's never, the expectations are usually through the roof. So you need to kind of calm everyone down. We're not showing major studio product. They're not going to give us a secret screening before it's played anywhere in the US. It's not Valerian. It's not it's not any other major title. It's something that fits the Strange Fest perfectly. If it wasn't secret, it would have been playing. It's just that we had an opportunity to present it as a secret screening. The distributor's really into it. If it works, hopefully we do it again, future years. I love the idea of it. And then once it's established, then we can start really messing with the expectations.